Okay, welcome to another SEO Hangout with Josh Bachynski. That would be me. Today I have some bombshells dropped by Google for you, some SEO bombshells that were all dropped in the month of July. In fact, I'm going to cover the entire month of July in this one Hangout, so or aka rant. So I'm going to rant about July for you. But it was a huge month, a big month, just tons of bombshells were dropped, just amazing things were said. Tons of information were released, so let's get right to that information instead of me talking about the information. So the first things I want to talk about were in a hangout with John Mueller on July the 5th and what was talked about there. And basically just some unbelievable stuff has been talked about. First off, I asked John Mueller point blank, okay, fine. You've been talking about we need recommendations, you've been talking about we need different recommendations, we need different signals than links. Okay, so fine. So everyone is starting to wonder what are they, people are starting to ask what are they, people are starting to speculate what are they, and doing tests to find out what are they. And so I asked the source, I asked Google, well, what are they? And he said, and I couldn't believe how forthcoming he was with some of the information. He said, I asked, how do I make my site easy to recommend? He said, you need to make it recommendable. I said, exactly, well, technically speaking, how do you make it easy to recommend? And so he said, he started giving some actual technical actionable tips. So he said, first off, and I quote, you have to provide an easy way to +1, share, and like, end quote. Again, this is a direct quote. He said, you need to provide an easy way to +1, share, and like, end quote. And this is useful for ranking. This is the context of this discussion. So that's direct confirmation from Google that +1 shares and likes will help you rank to whatever extent, to whatever limited degree. It doesn't really seem to be a huge degree right now, to whatever degree, who knows, but they do use those signals, and those signals do bubble you up to some degree. He also said you have to make it easy to copy. He said this multiple times. He says you have to make it easy to copy and paste the URL. And they also strongly implied that email sharing can help you rank, or that any kind of sharing can help you rank, because he was specific on the sharing. And I said, I was, well, what kind of sharing? Well, all kind of sharing. He says all kinds of sharing. So this is fascinating. He was like, all kinds of sharing, the different kinds of sharing. There's been lots of speculation going on lately by ex-Google employees. So not me, ex-Google employees, people who worked intimately with Google, that Google is tracking stuff that people are doing in Chrome, that they're tracking in an aggregate kind of broad strokes way. They're tracking all what people are doing in Chrome. So that could include copying and pasting URLs. That could include maybe even they're tracking, who knows, they could even be mining Gmail for people sharing links and sharing, or whenever they click a mail to, for example, and that could be a share to somebody else, they could figure that as some kind of a recommendation. So very interesting. Again, we're not entirely sure what signals they're using there, but more and more information seems to be coming out that they are using these signals there. So I personally find it very exciting. He also said to make sure that you have no parameters in your URL. That the URL is short, and use a bit.ly style if possible. In fact, using bit.ly may not be a bad idea. Whenever you want to share your links, there's all kind of reasons for that. If you want a little bit more information about the SEO trickiness of how that might work, by all means, please contact me. And again, I'll put my contact info out now before I forget. I'm Josh Bachynski. Hello. I am Batman. You can email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. You can follow me at Josh Bachynski on Twitter. And of course, you can also watch me at youtube.com/jbachins, JBACHYNS, which you probably already are, but you can do that as well. So I wanted to do that before I forgot. So in short, he says, and I quote, again, this is a direct quote, you need to remove all barriers to sharing. So I found that super important, super interesting. He actually mentioned specifics there. Not only that, he dropped another bombshell in the same hangout on July 5th that he says, yes, social helps you rank. But, point blank, he said, yes, social will help you rank. And I just quoted him saying that +1 shares and likes will help you rank. But you need a good profile, he says. It's just not a matter of having thousands of tweets. It's just not a matter of buying 1 million likes. Their algorithms are more complex than that. Just think of it this way. The ways that he kind of hinted around, and then I'll give you my synopsis. He was like, you need interaction in your social profile, even on your site. Yes, I asked, the question I ask is, it's against their guidelines to ask for a link. Is it against their guidelines to ask for a social social share, a +1, or a like? And he didn't like that question because it not only did it kind of stuck it to Google in a way, my question, but also it made him admit, either he's on the horns of the bull, as we would say in philosophy, or he's or in rhetorical circles, and he had a dilemma. Either he had to admit that social signals helped you rank, or he had to admit that, but they'll be changed their guidelines soon, like they did for links. Or he has to say, no, they don't help you rank. We already admitted they helped you rank. So he was kind of caught. And so he said, right now, yes, you can definitely incentivize people social sharing. So do that. Make sure you're using something like pay with a tweet or play with a +1 to get any special content. Maybe you have special articles or special content. You can make them pay for that with a tweet, or pay with a +1, or pay with a like. Or I would even give the content free. And then I would have a pop-up at some point to say, hey, don't you think this is great? Wouldn't it be nice if you +1'd it? Thank you so much. And make it dead easy to do that. Big +1 button, almost blinking. They click it, it goes away fast, and then they're done. Or you have a big arrow pointing to, like us or +1 us. You wouldn't believe what people would click if there's an arrow pointing to it. This can greatly increase conversions in general and conversions for social sharing in this particular case in particular. Or you can offer incentives like, share us with friends and you'll get this, or be a return visitor and you'll get that. All these kinds of things that we think are starting to be signals that they're tracking, it would be great to incentivize. That's perfectly white hat. There's nothing wrong with that, except for asking for a link. That is against their guidelines, and so that is black hat. But because it's just not thought of yet, it's still white hat to do that for social. And if they ever say you can't do that, well, see, now they're caught. See, because Google's new mandate, they made a mistake publishing the PageRank algorithm. Because now everyone knows that links are used for ranking, and so they can try and use that like crazy. Google's new tactic, I don't know if you noticed, is to kind of hint it as much as possible to try and help people, because at some point, some of them do seem to truly want to help people. Not all of them. Some of them are complete jerks, in my opinion, and don't want to help other people at all. People like Pierre Farr, or others. Sorry, I had to cough there. I don't know what noise you heard, but that seems to be their shtick. But people like John Mueller, in my opinion, at least so far, seems to be a really nice guy, really cares about webmasters, and really wants to help them as much as he can without getting fired and without giving away everything, right? So definitely there's been hinting and some general help that's been given. John Mueller certainly hasn't given away anything that I think he should be fired over, in case anyone else from Google is watching this. He's a great guy. He needs a raise, in fact. But these are some of the general information that he provided. And also you need to focus on the big four in terms of getting back to social. You need to focus on the big four: Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and Pinterest. Maybe even Bitly or Disquist or Reddit, because don't forget, I can send you the page if you want to see it. Google has admitted that they have backdoor OAuth deals with a bunch of different minor social networks. They get all the data of what's going on, even if it's behind a paid login, like Disquist or Reddit. They get all that information. And there's a bunch of other ones. And Disquist and Reddit are not small social networks at all. They're just not thought of as the huge social networks like Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, even YouTube, right? So yes, apparently those signals help you rank. Now, my interpretation of this and what I'm using in my secret social sauce, and I've seen that helps rank, and I've good evidence for this now, and other people are starting to notice this and starting to kind of catch up, is that it's more about your profile. It's more about building out your public fan page, your public profile, and having really good followers, interaction, shares, comments, and stuff on that profile, because that's much harder to fake. It can be faked, of course. You can get 10 different bot accounts all talking to each other and all sharing and liking and +1ing and whatever, all this stuff. But it is much harder to fake when you start computing that machine learning to the nth degree and looking at their friends and seeing that you have kind of a clove of really fake-looking accounts that started all around the same time, maybe, or it gets harder to find. It gets easier to find, the faker it is. So it looks like, but still, it looks like having a genuine kind of good profile that links to your website, either officially through the Google+ Webmaster Tools reciprocal link, or just through Facebook or whatever, just have a link back. That really seems to be one of the biggest things, having a big profile. There's a few other tricks there that I don't want to give out on video, not because I'm trying to be a jerk, but just because I have people who've paid me for that, the privilege of that knowledge. and it's still fairly new. Once it gets more out there, I'll definitely let the that secret sauce out. And of course you're free to email me and ask me for an hour consulting, which is fairly cheap, all things considered, and I'll blab away. Yeah, sure, it works like this, and blah 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 blah. But out of respect for my customers who have actually put money down for this information, I can't give all of it out. But if you're a do-it-yourselfer, I've given you enough information there that you can figure out, the rest of it, and it's pretty clever and pretty crafty, but it has to be pretty nuanced. It's not just, you can't just go on Fiverr. As far as I can tell, I've never seen anyone getting the benefit of just going to Fiverr and buying 100 plus ones. Maybe if you bought 1 million plus ones, if you can do that, and most of them stuck, maybe that would help you rank if all your competitors had like 3 links and like 2 plus ones. But so it's not like plus ones are each like a PageRank 5 link each. If anything, they're a PR 0 link or even less. But still, they seem to add up, and these different social signals in some combinations seem to be used. So this is what it looks like it is, and it was implied that it was about a profile and about your social profile. It was not just thousands of tweets, quote unquote, from John Mueller. And this is what I've been finding out. This is what other people have been doing. Okay, another bombshell was dropped on July 5th. This one was to watch your click-through rate. John Mueller did confirm that they do have click-through rate algorithms. In fact, he was fairly point blank in what these click-through algorithms were that demote poor performing pages. So I'm going to talk about that in a second, about actually what that is. But but just I want to mention for now that he did mention this on July 5th, and then they were kind of even mentioned more later on in the month, and so I'll get to that then. Okay, if that wasn't enough, here's some more bombshells. July 10th, Eric Ings or however you pronounce this guy's last name, interviewed Matt Cutts at SMX Advanced way back in May. Now, and then so what Eric did is that he took that information from the interview he did at SMX Advanced, which apparently he does every year, and every year that they're there, I suppose, and makes a synopsis of the interview and then publishes it. Now, you might ask, well, is this worth listening to? Didn't Cutts give him all the prescribed answers? Well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But Cutts did push this more than 2 times on his own Twitter feed, personally typing in, hey, this is great. Hey, in case you missed this was great. I did this interview. So clearly he thinks it's important, and clearly he thinks that it has some important information there, and that it's worth listening to. So I'll let you decide whether or not you think it's just all public relations marketing speak. So this is what was talked about in that particular interview. Of course, the entire notion of links being dead was the main topic of the interview, and has been the main topic since SMX Advanced, and ever since Matt Cutts at this last SMX pretty much said, yeah, links are pretty much dead. This is what was said in this interview. 1, you want to go for diversity in online marketing. It was asked, should we just go for links? He's like, no. In terms for ranking, this was implied that this could help for ranking, that you need to go for diversity across your online marketing. You don't just want links or press releases or these kinds of links, those kinds of links, or this social channel. You want different social channels. Wherever you can find your customers, you want to go there and you want to interact. That was what was implied, and that, again, that ties directly into what John Mueller has been saying as well, and what I've been saying, what other people have been finding. So without a doubt, they're starting to use stuff like this. And of course, he also went on to say that they will track this, and whether or not they're tracking it fully now, they are going to track this. This is the kind of recommendations that they have online to track. There really is nothing else they can trust as much to track online anymore, and they will get better tracking this kind of social authority, including authorship in a social context. Again, regarding links, he was asking, are links dead, whatever, and this was directly implied. That authorship, a link or reciprocal link back, the time of the post, the quality, the age, and the trust of the blog, this will directly determine if a link will be counted moving forward. I repeat, that if there's good authorship signals, that there's a there's a link back or some kind of social reciprocation there, that the time of the post, where they're all posted together, or a bunch are posted at the same time, the quality, the age, and the trust of the blog, This will directly determine if a link is going to be counted moving forward. Again, you can read the interview to read for yourself, if I'm reading too much into that, but to me, that was what was directly implied by some of the stuff that Matt Cutts said. Speaking of other signals they're going to be using, again, Cutts seemed to reaffirm in this interview that on-site usage and off-site recommendations are going to be used, and they're much more important and this is the direct thing that was said, they are much more important ranking signals than authorship moving forward. So, in short, they said this, Matt Cutts said this, they will always try to bring, one, the best answer in terms of quality and relevance, from two, your friends or experts that they can tell, so that means Search Plus Your World and or author rank, or failing this, they will always try and recommend the well-used relevant pieces online that they can find that have the most recommendations. So they are still committed to off-page recommendations to try and determine quality. And he mentioned in this interview, they're still committed to thinking that your social contacts know you better than they do. In fact, some of Googlers have even said that, word for word. And that so they're going to be still using SPEW, Search Plus Your World, and any other social confirmation they can get. Now, if they can read Facebook, which apparently they can, and there's even Rand Fishkin from Moz thinks they can read the private Facebook as well. He says that he knows that they have a back-end OAuth agreement with a company that can read the private Facebook, and they can get the information that way. So I don't know if they can do that. Fishkin says they can. He does know Googlers. He has been plugged into the secrets there for quite some time. But whether that is true or not, I don't know. But they do have over 5 billion pages from Facebook indexed. Just do an info query for Facebook.com. So obviously they can spider some Facebook, and that probably provides them with a lot of information. So they're still committed to using social signals and people they can tell through whatever means you have a social connection with, that apparently those people know you better than they do, and supposedly stuff that they've liked on the same topic that you like, you might like as well if you're searching for that topic. I don't know if I agree with that search philosophy, but Cutts did, pretty point blank confirm that in the interview that that's how they're going to be running search for the foreseeable future. All right, even more in July was dropped. I'm not even halfway done. Okay, so on July 12th, speaking of Moz, they chimed in finally, confirming that they have seen experiential results showing that click-through rate does matter in terms of ranking, and that user experience matters for rankings as well. And again, I will go on in just a couple seconds to describe exactly how I think this works and what John Mueller said how it works. July 18th, however, there's a bigger problem in a way that we have to talk about, especially for local rankings, for you folks who are worried about local ranking. Matt Storms, not Matt Cutts, Matt Storms, who is a different guy, who's a Google top contributor. In a Hangout, I was on Help Desk Hangouts. Those guys do Hangouts all the time, on every Friday, I believe. And I know when we were there, was with Matt Storms there, we noticed a problem called Yelp crowding. Matt brought this to the group to look at. Basically, if you do a search nail salon San Francisco, you're going to see a bunch of Yelp results. At least this was back on July 18th, you would see these results. Actually, as late as July 29th. And looking into it a bit more, if you do the search nail salon Victoria, BC, so I looked for my local area, Victoria, BC, I found not only were there Yelp results, but there were a lot of Yellow Pages and Facebook results too. Tons of these big domains were polluting the results. In fact, it was very dead obvious if you have the SEO Moz search toolbar installed, and so you get the page authority and domain authority underneath all the rankings. You saw that all the things that ranked up higher, Yelp, Yellow Pages, Facebook, all had high domain authority. Then there was the Google Maps portion stuck in there, and then under that, and only under that, so well below the fold, there was local sites like nailsalonvictoriabc.com or getyournailsdonehere.ca. These kind of local sites that were obviously trying to rank their sites through whatever means, including the local kind of EMD paradigm. And they had, a very tiny domain authority and also some page authority. So it looked for local results. By looking at that, it was very clear. It looked for local results that Google was prioritizing high domain authority, but non-existent page authority. Again, high domain authority, like Yelp, Yellow Pages, Facebook.com, but non-existent page authority. They had page authority 0, 0, 0, 0, all at the top. Then Google Maps. Then under that, whatever else that was, the kind of old school EMD kind of way of ranking things. So on July 29th, so this was going to be a problem by us. It didn't seem very fair. This is the same domain crowding problem we've been seeing for well over a year now. So on July 29th, John Mueller was confronted by this by Matt Storms. And John Mueller said something very interesting. He said, and I quote, he defended it. He said, and I quote, "It can make sense to show results from the same website," unquote. In other words, he completely defended Google's practice of prioritizing these large domains in the SERP. And basically he explained this is the new way Google is doing local ranking. So what they want is they don't want spammy local EMD results. And he's mentioned this many times before, actually, and that they're moving more, and now they have moved, past tense, they've moved now to having more paid, major, moderated style, large listing pages, like yellow page type listings, including Yellow Pages specifically. Yellow Pages, Yelp, of course they bought Zagat and put that into Google Plus Places and also Google Plus Places. He implied those are the kinds of rankings they're going for local because they can't trust the spammy EMD local results where you have, Brampton Nail Salon, Toronto Nail Salon, Mississauga Nail Salon, having all these EMDs and trying to rank for these local areas. Now I've known the writing has been on the wall. If you've been watching, you've seen that the writing has been on the wall for this for some time. But now it looks like you're really going to be pushed down below the fold if you're trying to rank in that way. If and only if people have bothered to use the Yelp and Yellow Pages results. You could still be ranking very highly for this result, and you can think that I'm full of crap by saying this. But you have to understand that if there is a Yelp and Yellow Pages result that has the same keywords, where it has to have the same keywords, if it does, it's going to outrank your EMD, unless your EMD has really good other signals, like really good social signals, really good links, really good articles that people are really enjoying. Okay, and even then, I'd be surprised if you could make it above the Google Places listings, especially if any of them are enhanced. So, how do you get ahead in local ranking then these days? Well, I would avoid using the EMD structure if you can avoid it. And essentially, if you can't beat them, you have to join them. They control the system, right? So this is the things you can manipulate. I would get your Yelp and Yellow Pages and Facebook filled out now. Any other large kind of site that you can put a listing on. For your business name, I would make sure your main keyword is in your business name, if at all possible. Or get your main keywords in there. Fill everything out that's all possible, because the more you have filled out, the more signals they can use, whether they're using them or not. In Google Places, for example, make sure you have free parking, and make sure you say you have free parking. I was told specifically that by an enhanced a Google contractor who does enhanced listings, that Google specifically will use that for rankings. There's a bunch of other ones as well, so if you want more information about local ranking, all the little tricks that are there, by all means contact me. And last but not least, I mentioned this before, how local SEO had radically changed, and this is still the case. If you can, get an enhanced listing. Last time I reported on it, they were only available in North America. Now, as I understand it, they have now or will soon be rolling out in Europe. What you need to do is get an enhanced listing, which also comes part and parcel with the 360-degree Google Places tour. The 360 tour is good in and of itself, just as a piece of marketing or advertisement for you, if you do it right. If you have the picture of if you're doing it for a lawyer's office, make sure you get a guy in a suit with, if it's family law, with a woman with her child, and they're shaking hands, and they're all smiling, look happy. Of course, they'll gray up the faces, but it doesn't matter. The body language will say everything. And clearly, this is the best place for law because there's someone who's really happy there. It's an advertisement for you, so use it as an advertisement. Otherwise, so ignoring the 360 tour, the enhanced listing part of it also gives you a boost, will also promote you, so to speak, It also gives you a major boosting for your keywords, which are essentially your categories. So make sure you fill out at least 3 categories or 5 if you can argue for them specifically. So again, there's a lot of rules you have to follow there. If you don't do it right, it'll totally backfire and will not work for you. So you have to get it right. So if you want to know what all those rules are, you want to make sure you get your enhanced listing for local SEO, which is the new way it's being done. By all means, contact me. And I will help you out as best I can. Okay, so speaking of local rankings and local listings, here's another little tidbit of information that I thought was really important. If you have a problem with your local listing, like you have the wrong address, or there's someone on there that doesn't need to be there anymore, or the business name is wrong, you changed your business name or something like that, you're able to change it in Google Places, of course, but you usually have to wait forever for it to update. At least I've had to wait forever before on my businesses, and customers of mine, clients of mine, have had to wait forever. Well, apparently, Barry Schwartz reports that there is some way you can speed this up. There's a phone number you can call. Yes, unlike global ranking for Google, for local ranking, there is a phone number you can call. So this is happy news for people who I know have been waiting for their Google Places to update that they've changed, months ago. So all you have to do, I don't have the number here, and they don't give out a number. You have to fill out a form, and they will call you back, apparently. So all you have to do is Google Places Help for Business. Again, just go into Google and search for this. Google Places Help for Business. And then you'll fill out a form, and they will send you, they'll phone you back. And supposedly you can get some help with this. Barry Schwartz claims that it worked for him. So hopefully it'll work for you too. Okay, still moving on. I still got plenty of stuff that happened in July to talk about here. Okay, so in fact, I might not even get through it all because there's still quite a bit more. So maybe I'll bring it to the next rant. Okay, so July 24th. Barry also chimed in on this user satisfaction question of whether or not it's used for rankings. He found someone who ran an experiment. Some dude lowered his prices and doubled his conversions. So on his website, he lowered his prices, and by doing so, he doubled his conversions. And you would assume within days, his rankings jumped up 2, 3, or 4 spots on those sales-based search queries. The reason is why? Why did this happen? Well, everyone's thinking that this search retry, which I've been talking about for probably the last year and a half, people are starting to realize that this SERP retry is having an effect. And I wasn't the only one talking about it a year and a half ago. There was other guys who knew this was working and talking about it, or not talking about it because they wanted to manipulate themselves. But so presumably by lowering his prices, he doubled his conversions. He knows he did that because he could track conversions. Presumably that means that he terminated more searches, that if there were more people happy with what they found, and if they bought, presumably they didn't go back to Google and click another result, or they didn't go back to Google and tailor their search to try and find better information. Presumably they terminated their search and they went and did something else or looked for something else if they bought the product. And within days, his rankings, within days, now he didn't have to wait a month for like Panda to refresh or anything, within days his ranking jumped up. So again, this is the click-through rate that we've been talking about, the SERP retry that I've been talking about, that John Mueller's been talking about, that everyone's been talking about for a while now. Is it coincidence? I don't know. I think all this evidence is starting to be a little too overwhelming to think it's just coincidence. And again, John Mueller, as I said, already confirmed that they use algorithms like this, and these are the 2 algorithms, so I said I would talk about it later, so here it is. Here's the 2 algorithms that John Mueller has already confirmed in verbatim in Hangouts. He said, or point blank, not verbatim, but point blank. He said that they do have a click-through rate algorithm. This is on July 5th he said this. And that the way it works, and they have for years, and the way it works is you have to have a better click-through rate than other sites at your position. So they know what position 3 in that particular vertical and that niche should be getting or was getting. And if you're at position 3, you're not getting the same or better or worse than everyone else, then they'll structure it to bring better results that people like to click on more up. And personally, what I think they've done, they've used this for years, what I think they've done is they just now have the machine language, they now have the processing power to rerunning this on a daily basis as opposed to a couple month review, that they were checking to make sure that their search was satisfying people. I think they're running this on a daily basis. I don't think they're using this as a check. I think they're now using this to rank partially, right? Partially, with a bunch of other things to rank. And then the other one was the Panda usage quality algorithms, where if people click through and go back, or some kind of some kind of on-page quality analysis goes on as well, looking for garbage text or dupe text, or the page layout algorithm looking for too many ads, or the speed algorithm looking to whether how fast it loads or not, and looking whether people are satisfied. Those 23 questions, whether or not searchers are satisfied. That's the other usage algorithm they're using, which either works directly with and is triggered by the first one, or somehow works in conjunction with the first one. Because if you improve all that, you do seem to get rid of the panda problems, which I've seen for numerous websites. So he's chiming in on that as well. So Barry is chiming in on that as well. So, last but not least, July 29th, they made some, you've probably already heard about this, but I'll just make sure I cover it. They made some very drastic and point-blank changes to their link schemes document. Their link schemes document is a document online that tries to tell you what they think a link scheme is. A link scheme that is against their guidelines for how to rank sites, their webmaster guidelines. So this is just further proof that linking signals are out or on the way out, because they can't trust them. We've black-hatted them too much. And that usage and social signals are in, they're going to get better, bigger and stronger, and going to be used more and more as long as they feel that they can trust them more and more. And what changes did they make to the document particularly? Well, these are the changes that they made. Essentially, they specify that any link, and I mean any link that you made yourself, is a bad link or an invalid vote, and thus needs to be no-followed or disavowed, especially if the link was an exact match query commercial link, or if it is duplicated across different websites. This was not said in the link scheme article, although it actually very well could have been. But this was posted by a Googler from August 5th that Barry Schwartz posted on, outing a paid link. The article was duped on numerous sites, and so there was no other way to tell it was paid other than that, as far as I could tell. So they do use strong language to talk about any blog, press release, any kind of article online. All these links are no longer trusted. These are now considered to be link schemes. This is just echoing what I've already said. This is echoing what Matt Cutts already said from SMX Advanced way back in May. He said that the blog style link is no longer their link paradigm that they consider to be a valid recommendation online. Why? Because it's just too suspect. It's just been manipulated too much. And quite frankly, you and I both know, they wouldn't admit, but you and I know, that the blogosphere has been dead since 2007. The only people who've been making blog links are people in the tech and SEO industries. And so that's, Google was foolishly hanging on to those as valid recommendations for quality web pages online. So this change in the link schemes document is huge. It is just kind of like the final nail in the coffin. The lid was already closed at SMX Advanced. They just finally put that nail on there to prove it to us all. It strongly implies that any link can hurt you. Any link can hurt you, whether it was made by you or not. Especially if it's an exact match query commercial link, like if I'm trying to rank redapples.com, I make a bunch of links to my site called redapples, or even redapples.com. It doesn't matter what the linking text is. That was specifically mentioned by this Googler on August 5th from Barry's article, which I can send you if you want to see it. Or just look for the articles that Barry Schwartz put on August 5th. And it strongly implies that any link on a public post yourself site, or even a low authority blog site. The only articles that they seem these days to consider valid or safe articles, or ones that they will trust, are the kind that they will put in their in-depth articles section. They are now showing for some search queries an in-depth articles section, more in-depth articles. And if you look at the kind of articles, they're like the New Yorker, the Times, major news and magazine publishers. So obviously, they're only going to count major news outlets as the kind of link that is the kind of link that they might count, and they might not even count those either, because there's tons of these kinds of news outlets that do accept money for links and have been for many years and make a lot of money on it. And Google knows this, and they've already been looking at it and trying to combat it. It looks like they're getting to the point where, I don't know if they are right now, they don't seem to be right now. Links seem still to be a factor, but they are definitely on the way out. So what can you do? Well, if you want to get those kinds of links The only kind of safe linking now really seems to be link bait, to point directly to your main site. That doesn't mean that link building is dead. There's still clever ways to do it by not pointing it directly to your main site, but pointing it to, and not to a brand new buffer site, a new blog that you started up, because that still has the same problem. And you have a problem linking from the buffer blog site to your main site as well, if you don't do that right. But there are ways to route that link juice that still are worthwhile if you're clever. So I'm not saying link building is dead, but I'm saying if you want to be safe, pointing to your main money site, your main site, link building now has to be link bait. You have to do something newsworthy, quote, big flashing letters, newsworthy. Run a charity drive, run a contest, do outlandish things on your website, claim outlandish things, if you need to, win design contests. Heck, make up a contest, make contests, get people in there and registering for those contests, and win them if you need to, or get those links, whatever. Run some kind of event and get all those event type links. There are ways still of doing this link building. I've mentioned them before. You can route link juice. I don't like the PR0, new blog buffer sites, because again, it has the same problem. They're low and no authority and not trusted. But there's still other ways of doing it. If you want information on how to do it, I can definitely mention how to do it. But I'm more or less running out of time for today. So those were pretty much all the bombshells dropped in July. So August is a new month. It's a new year, so to speak, for SEO. The rest of this year is going to be pretty much totally different than the first part of the year. And so I'll be right there to tell you everything that's going on and how to rank and all that kind of stuff. So until such a time, good luck in the SERPs. I wish you well if you've recently been struck by any of these panda or penguins or whatnot. If you have, and you're having trouble cleaning up, by all means, contact me. I would be happy to help you out. Again, my name is Josh Bachynski. You can email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh Bachynski, and you can watch this video and many more SEO videos where I give out some SEO knowledge at youtube.com/jbachins, JBACHYNS. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.